Artemis is not just a goddess of the hunt. She is a force of nature. Untamed, fierce, and fiercely protective, she moves through the wilderness like a shadow no one can catch. To follow her is to face the wild itself, unpredictable and relentless. But beneath her wild exterior lies a complexity few dare to explore. She is not simply a hunter chasing prey. She is a guardian of the vulnerable, a defender of the innocent, and a symbol of unyielding independence. Artemis is primal raw power wrapped in mystery. Feared by gods and mortals alike, she commands respect through her ruthless precision and unwavering loyalty. Artemis isn't just a huntress. She is the untamed spirit of nature itself, beautiful, deadly, and eternal. Artemis's story begins long before her first arrow was loosed into the wild. She was born under a silver light that set her apart from the very moment she entered the world. A twin goddess, born to the Olympian king Zeus and the titaness Leto. Her brother Apollo came first, radiant as the sun. Artemis followed, radiant as the moon, destined to rule the night and the wilderness that thrived under its glow. Her birth was far from simple. Hera, Zeus's jealous wife, forbade Leto from giving birth anywhere under the sun. Driven from place to place, Leto finally found refuge on the floating island of Delos. There, in secret and silence, Artemis was born, swift, fierce, and fully formed, a symbol of survival against impossible odds. The island itself became sacred to her, a place where the wild and divine met. From the start, Artemis was more than just a child of the gods. She was a protector and a warrior. According to myth, immediately after her birth, she leapt from her mother's arms and helped deliver her brother Apollo. This act wasn't just a miracle. It was a promise. A promise that Artemis would always be a guardian, standing between chaos and order, life and death. But Artemis's power was tied to more than just birth. She took an oath of eternal maidenhood, vowing to remain a virgin goddess forever. This was no simple choice. In ancient Greek culture, virginity symbolized independence, freedom, and power over one's own destiny. Artemis rejected the traditional roles expected of women and goddesses alike. She refused marriage, motherhood, or submission. Instead, she embraced the wild, roaming forests and mountains with her band of nymphs, untethered and unstoppable. This vow of chastity shaped Artemis's identity in profound ways. She became the fierce protector of young girls and women, especially those on the cusp of adulthood. Her temples were places where girls underwent rites of passage, marking their transition from childhood to womanhood under her watchful gaze. To Artemis, innocence was sacred, not fragile. It was strength waiting to be awakened. Her connection to the moon further deepened her role as a guardian of the night and the natural world. Unlike Apollo, who represented the bright, life-giving sun, Artemis was the cool, mysterious glow that illuminated darkness. The moon's cycles mirrored her own nature, ever-changing, yet constant. As the huntress goddess, she moved silently through the shadows, her arrows striking swiftly and without warning. The wilderness was her domain, and she ruled it with unyielding authority. Artemis's dual nature, as both nurturing protector and relentless hunter, made her one of the most complex figures in Greek mythology. She was merciless to those who harmed the innocent, but compassionate toward those who lived in harmony with nature. This balance between ferocity and care made her both feared and revered. Mortals knew that to call upon Artemis was to invite a power that could heal or destroy with equal force. Her birth story also hints at the tension between freedom and control that defines Artemis. Born under conditions of exile and danger, she embodies survival against the odds, but also a strict discipline that governs her actions. She doesn't hunt for sport. She hunts for balance. Her arrows maintain the order of the wild, keeping unchecked chaos at bay. In this way, Artemis is both wild spirit and lawgiver, a paradox that fascinates and terrifies. As the twin sister of Apollo, Artemis's origins set the stage for a lifelong dance of light and shadow. They were two halves of a whole, sun and moon, day and night, reason and instinct. Each wielded tremendous power, but it was Artemis's fierce independence and connection to nature that made her stand apart. She wasn't content to shine in Apollo's bright light. She carved her own path through the darkness. Artemis's divine origins remind us that power comes in many forms. It can be gentle or fierce, nurturing or destructive. Her birth under the moon's glow symbolizes the strength found in mystery and the unknown. As we follow her story deeper into the wilds of myth, we see a goddess who refuses to be tamed, ever a huntress, ever a protector, forever the untamed spirit of nature. From the moment Artemis stepped into the world, she claimed the wild as her own. The forests, mountains, and rivers, those untamed places where humans dared not tread, became her domain. Unlike the other Olympians who ruled over cities and civilizations, Artemis belonged to the wilderness itself. She was the fierce guardian of nature's raw beauty and brutal law, a goddess who embodied the freedom and danger of untamed lands. Artemis's relationship with the natural world was deep and sacred. She was not just a hunter chasing prey. She was the protector of all wild creatures, from the smallest hare to the greatest stag. In many myths, animals were both her companions and her charges. It is said that she could call upon beasts to aid her, commanding the loyalty of the forest with a silent word or a steady gaze. Her arrows were swift and deadly, but she used them with purpose, only taking what was necessary to maintain the delicate balance of life and death. This balance was central to her role. Artemis was known to punish hunters who disrespected the wild, those who hunted for sport or greed rather than need. She demanded respect for the creatures of the earth and enforced a strict code among those who sought her favor. The hunt to Artemis was never a game. It was a sacred ritual, a dance between predator and prey, survival and sacrifice. Her weapon of choice, the bow and arrow, symbolized more than just skill in battle. It was an extension of her will, precise, controlled, and lethal. Unlike Ares's chaotic bloodlust or Athena's strategic warfare, Artemis's hunting was an intimate connection with the natural order. Her arrows could bring swift death, but they also ensured the survival of the ecosystem. To strike recklessly was to invite her wrath. Yet, Artemis was not merely a goddess of death. She was also a goddess of protection. She was the guardian of young women, children, and those vulnerable to harm. Her followers often included hunters, yes, but also maidens seeking her blessing before marriage or childbirth. Her temples served as sanctuaries, places where women could find strength, healing, and guidance. In this way, Artemis bridged the wild and the civilized, the savage and the sacred. The goddess's connection to the wilderness extended beyond the physical realm. The night, with its shadows and mystery, was her kingdom. As the moon goddess, Artemis moved silently through the darkness, watching over travelers, guiding lost souls, and punishing those who dared to defile her sacred spaces. Her presence was a reminder that nature is beautiful, but also unforgiving, a force that demands respect and humility. Artemis's character was marked by contrasts. She was both nurturing and ruthless, tender and terrifying. Her protection was fierce, her vengeance swift. This duality made her a complex figure, not easily understood or tamed. Mortals both feared and revered her, knowing that to call upon Artemis was to summon a power that could heal or destroy. In many myths, her wrath was legendary. When those who disrespected her or harmed the innocent crossed her path, she was merciless. Yet, her punishments often served a higher purpose, to restore balance and teach respect for the natural order. This fierce justice reinforced her role as a guardian, not just of the wild, but of moral law. Artemis's wilderness was not chaos. It was order in its purest form, a world where every creature had a place, every action a consequence. She was the lawmaker of the forest, the silent judge of the night. Her arrows were not only weapons, but symbols of truth, cutting through deception and arrogance. Her followers understood this deeply. Hunters who honored Artemis learned discipline and reverence. They saw themselves as part of a larger cycle, not masters of nature, but its humble servants. This respect extended to the land itself, a lesson humanity often forgets in the rush of progress. Artemis's dominion reminds us of the wild inside all of us, the instincts, the freedom, the untamed spirit yearning to break free. But it also warns of the consequences when that spirit is reckless or disrespectful. She embodies the perfect balance between freedom and responsibility, power and restraint. As the eternal huntress, Artemis continues to inspire those who seek strength beyond brute force, a strength rooted in harmony with nature and oneself. She is a goddess who teaches us that true power comes not from domination, but from understanding and respect. Artemis and Apollo were born twins, yet they represented two very different, and sometimes opposing, forces in Greek mythology. Their relationship reveals much about balance and contrast, not just between siblings, but between elements of the natural and divine world. Where Apollo shone as the god of the sun, light, and reason, Artemis ruled the moon, darkness, and the wild unknown. Together, they embodied the eternal dance between day and night, civilization and wilderness, order and instinct. Apollo, radiant and charismatic, was the embodiment of clarity and harmony. He brought light to the world, both literally, as the sun god who drove his chariot across the sky each day, and metaphorically, as a god of music, poetry, and prophecy. His influence was tied to civilization, culture, and enlightenment. He was the ideal of rationality, inspiring humans to create, innovate, and understand the cosmos. In stark contrast, Artemis was the goddess of the night, shadows, and untamed nature. While Apollo's light revealed, Artemis's moonlight concealed. She was the protector of wild spaces where human laws held no sway, a guardian of the primal and mysterious. The moon's cycles governed her mood and power, waxing and waning in a rhythm that mirrored the cycles of life and death in the wilderness she ruled. Their contrasting roles often brought them into tension, but also created a dynamic balance. Apollo's world was one of clarity and order. Artemis's was one of mystery and unpredictability. Where Apollo sought to tame and illuminate, Artemis embraced wildness and concealment. Their stories illustrate the tension between these forces, reason versus instinct, the seen versus the unseen. Despite their differences, they shared profound similarities. Both were archers, skilled with the bow and arrow, symbols of precision and focus. Their arrows carried power beyond mere physical force. They could bring healing or death, blessing or curse. This shared skill linked them as divine warriors, each commanding different realms, but with a similar essence of mastery and control. Their sibling bond was complex. Myths tell of moments when they worked together, supporting each other's goals and protecting their shared family. But other stories hint at rivalry and conflict, especially when their domains overlapped or when mortals drew their favor. These tensions remind us that duality is not always harmonious. It can be a struggle for dominance and identity. One striking example of their intertwined fates is the myth of Niobe. Niobe, proud and boastful, claimed superiority over their mother Leto for having more children. In response, Artemis and Apollo struck down Niobe's children, Artemis killing the daughters and Apollo the sons. Their coordinated vengeance was a terrifying display of sibling unity and divine justice. It also showed that despite their contrasting natures, they could combine forces in defense of family honor and sacred law. The contrast between Artemis and Apollo extends beyond myth into symbolism. Apollo's sunlight represents knowledge, truth, and the rational mind. Artemis's moonlight symbolizes intuition, mystery, and the subconscious. Together, They form a holistic view of existence, one that embraces both what can be seen and measured, and what lies hidden beneath the surface. In this way, their dynamic mirrors the human experience. We are creatures of logic and instinct, reason and emotion, light and shadow. Apollo and Artemis teach us that neither side alone is enough. Civilization flourishes through reason and order, but it also depends on respect for nature's wildness and the mysteries we cannot fully understand. This balance is why both gods remain central figures in Greek religion and culture. Festivals celebrated them, temples honored them, and their stories were woven into the fabric of Greek identity. Each represented essential truths, but only together could they embody the full spectrum of life's complexities. In modern terms, Apollo and Artemis can be seen as archetypes, symbols embedded deep within the human psyche. Apollo is the archetype of the enlightened leader, the visionary thinker who brings light to darkness. Artemis is the archetype of the wild woman, the independent spirit who thrives beyond societal constraints. Their stories invite us to explore both aspects within ourselves and to seek harmony between control and freedom. Ultimately, the relationship between Artemis and Apollo reveals that opposing forces need not be enemies. They can be partners, balancing each other in a dance as old as time. Day needs night, reason needs instinct. And in this eternal balance, both gods continue to teach us about the power of duality. Artemis is not only the goddess of the hunt and wilderness. She is also known for her fierce wrath and unyielding protection. Stories of her vengeance reveal a goddess who will go to any lengths to defend her sacred space, punish disrespect, and safeguard the vulnerable. Her fierce nature makes her one of the most fearsome deities in Greek mythology, striking fear into mortals and gods alike. One of the most famous tales illustrating her wrath is the tragic story of Niobe. Niobe, the queen of Thebes, was proud and boastful. She claimed to be superior to Leto, the mother of Artemis and Apollo, because she had more children. This arrogant challenge was a direct insult to the goddess and her family. In response, Artemis and Apollo took swift and brutal action. Artemis killed all of Niobe's daughters, while Apollo killed her sons. This devastating punishment was meant to show the consequences of pride and disrespect towards the divine. Niobe was left broken and grief-stricken, forever mourning the loss of her children. This myth demonstrates Artemis's intolerance for arrogance and her readiness to defend her family's honor with deadly force. Artemis's wrath was not reserved only for those who insulted her or her family. She was also known to punish mortals who violated her sacred laws or disrespected her purity. One such tale is the story of Actaeon, a hunter who accidentally stumbled upon Artemis bathing in a secluded forest pool. Seeing the goddess in her most vulnerable and private moment was a grave offense. As punishment, Artemis transformed Actaeon into a stag, and he was hunted and killed by his own hunting dogs. This myth serves as a powerful warning about the sacred boundaries Artemis protects and the severe consequences of crossing them. Despite her fearsome reputation, Artemis's wrath was always linked to her role as a protector. She was fiercely loyal to those under her care, particularly young women and children. She guarded the innocent and the vulnerable, often intervening to defend them from harm. This protective instinct extended to her followers, many of whom were women who sought her blessing for safe childbirth or protection during rites of passage. Artemis's fierce nature was a source of strength for those who looked to her, embodying the idea that protection sometimes requires uncompromising force. Her role as protector also carried a message about the natural world. Artemis maintained a delicate balance between mercy and ruthlessness, ensuring that the wilderness remained pure and unspoiled. She was known to punish hunters who killed recklessly or disrespected animals. The goddess expected those who entered her domain to honor the laws of nature and respect life, whether human or animal. Her punishments served to remind mortals that the wild is not theirs to conquer without consequence. Artemis's dual nature, both merciless and compassionate, makes her a complex figure. She is a goddess who can bring death and destruction, but also healing and protection. Her presence in myths often challenges mortals to consider the limits of their actions and the importance of humility. She demands respect for the natural order and punishes those who upset the balance, but she also offers sanctuary to those who honor her. The goddess's wrath also reflects a broader theme in Greek mythology about the dangers of hubris or excessive pride. Many myths involving Artemis highlight the peril of offending the gods through arrogance or disrespect. Her severe punishments serve as reminders that divine power must be approached with reverence and caution. At the same time, her protective side reveals a goddess who champions the vulnerable and punishes injustice. Artemis's fearsome reputation ensured that she was both respected and feared in ancient Greek society. She was a deity who demanded devotion and obedience, but she also inspired awe and admiration. Her worshippers saw her as a powerful guardian who could provide safety and strength in a dangerous world. Her fierce justice became a symbol of divine order, one that protected life through discipline and sometimes ruthless action. Through her myths of wrath and protection, Artemis teaches timeless lessons about power, respect, and balance. She shows that strength is not only about physical force, but also about the courage to defend what is sacred. Her stories remind us that justice can be both fierce and fair, and that true protection often requires standing firm against those who threaten peace and order. Artemis was not a distant goddess who only existed in myth. She had a deep and lasting connection with mortals, especially women, hunters, and those who lived close to nature. Her followers were devoted and knew that calling upon Artemis meant seeking protection, strength, and guidance from a goddess who valued independence and respect for the wild. The relationship between Artemis and her mortal devotees reveals much about her character and her importance in ancient Greek culture. Artemis was especially revered by women at key moments in their lives. She was known as a guardian of young girls and maidens, protecting them through the vulnerable stages of childhood and adolescence. Her followers believed that the goddess watched over their safety, particularly during the transition into adulthood. Many rituals and ceremonies were dedicated to Artemis to mark these rites of passage. These ceremonies were both celebrations of growth and reminders of the responsibilities that came with maturity. In this way, Artemis symbolized female strength and the power to control one's own destiny. Priestesses of Artemis often played important roles in her worship. These women were seen as living representatives of the goddess on earth, upholding her values of purity, strength, and reverence for nature. They tended the sacred groves and temples dedicated to Artemis, performing rituals that honored her and sought her favor. These priestesses embodied the goddess's ideals of independence and self-discipline. Their devotion was not only religious, but also social, providing a space where women could gather, support one another, and connect with the divine feminine power Artemis represented. Hunters and wilderness dwellers also looked to Artemis for guidance and protection. She was the patroness of hunters who respected the laws of nature and hunted with honor. These hunters understood that Artemis was not a goddess of mindless violence or cruelty, but one who demanded respect for the balance of life. Hunting in her name required skill, patience, and humility. To hunt recklessly or wastefully was to invite Artemis's anger. Many hunters carried charms or wore symbols of Artemis, such as small boughs or images of deer, to remind themselves of their sacred responsibilities and to seek her favor. The olive tree, the stag, and the moon were among the symbols associated with Artemis that appeared frequently in her worship. The stag, in particular, was a sacred animal to her and appeared in many myths as a messenger or companion. These symbols connected her followers to the natural world and reinforced the idea that Artemis's power was intertwined with the wilderness. Her worship encouraged a deep respect for animals and nature that resonated through many aspects of ancient Greek life. Artemis was also believed to be a protector of childbirth and young children. In a time when childbirth was dangerous and infant mortality high, she was called upon to watch over mothers and their newborns. Her protection was thought to ease the pain of labor and safeguard the life of both mother and child. This nurturing aspect of Artemis is often overshadowed by her fiercer reputation, but it highlights her complex nature as both a warrior and a caretaker. The goddess's followers found inspiration in her fierce independence and refusal to be controlled. Artemis was a symbol of freedom in a world where women's roles were often limited by societal expectations. She represented the choice to live life on one's own terms, to defend one's body and spirit, and to maintain a connection to the wild and untamed parts of the self. This made Artemis an enduring figure for those who valued autonomy and strength. Her worship spread throughout the Greek world, from remote mountain shrines to the grand temples of cities. Festivals in her honor were lively affairs, often including athletic contests, hunts, and dances. These celebrations brought communities together and reinforced their shared values of courage, respect for nature, and the sacredness of life. Through these gatherings, Artemis's influence reached far beyond the wilderness into the heart of society. In modern times, Artemis continues to inspire those who seek connection to nature and feminine power. She is often seen as a figure of female empowerment, independence, and resilience. Her legacy challenges us to respect the natural world, to honor our own strength, and to protect those who are vulnerable. Through her mortal followers and the legends they left behind, Artemis's spirit remains alive. She is more than a goddess of the hunt. She is a guardian of life's wild and sacred balance, a protector of those who walk their own path, and a timeless symbol of freedom and fierce devotion. Artemis's power and symbolism have not faded with time. Even thousands of years after her myths were first told, she remains a figure of fascination and inspiration in modern culture. From movies and video games to literature and psychology, Artemis's image has evolved, but her essence, the wild, independent, fiercely protective huntress, still resonates deeply with people today. In popular culture, Artemis often appears as a strong, capable female figure who embodies independence and strength. For example, in video games such as God of War, Artemis is portrayed as a formidable goddess whose power and skill are unmatched. Her connection to the wilderness and her role as a protector remain central themes, introducing her story to a new generation of fans. Similarly, book series like Percy Jackson have brought Artemis and her myths back into the spotlight, making her accessible and relevant to young readers worldwide. These retellings emphasize her fierce loyalty to her followers and her unyielding spirit. Films and television shows also draw on Artemis's image to explore themes of female empowerment, independence, and connection to nature. She often appears as a symbol of strength that challenges traditional gender roles and celebrates freedom from societal constraints. This modern interpretation honors her ancient role as a protector of maidens and a goddess who chose to live outside the bounds of marriage and motherhood. Beyond entertainment, Artemis's symbolism has found a place in psychology, especially in Jungian analysis. Carl Jung identified certain archetypes, universal symbols that exist within the collective human unconscious. Artemis represents one such archetype, the warrior strategist and the wild woman. She embodies independence, courage, and the power of intuition and instinct. In this psychological framework, Artemis encourages individuals, especially women, to embrace their inner strength, to assert boundaries, and to protect their personal freedom. The Artemis archetype is a model of self-reliance and resilience. She calls on people to trust their instincts and to face challenges with both grace and strength. This archetype also honors the balance between nurturing and fierce protection. Like the goddess herself, those who identify with Artemis are often caretakers and warriors at the same time, defending their communities while maintaining a strong sense of individual freedom. The goddess's connection to nature also speaks to contemporary concerns about the environment. Artemis's role as a protector of the wilderness reminds Use of the importance of preserving natural habitats and respecting the balance of ecosystems. Many modern environmental movements find inspiration in her story, seeing in Artemis a symbol of harmony between humans and the wild. She embodies the fierce guardianship needed to protect what is precious and fragile. Artemis's influence is visible in feminist thought as well. Her refusal to conform to traditional female roles in mythology challenges patriarchal expectations and offers a powerful image of female autonomy. As a virgin goddess who chose her own path, Artemis is often seen as a symbol of liberation from societal pressures regarding marriage and motherhood. This makes her a compelling figure for discussions about gender, identity, and empowerment. Art and literature continue to explore Artemis's complex character, often highlighting her dual nature as both nurturer and warrior. Poets and painters have been drawn to the contrast between her wild, untamed spirit and her protective instincts. This tension creates a rich source of inspiration, allowing artists to explore themes of freedom, control, and the natural world. Even in everyday life, people find meaning in Artemis's story. Her image appears on jewelry, tattoos, and clothing, serving as a personal emblem of strength and independence. For many, Artemis represents the courage to stand apart, to honor one's own path, and to protect what is sacred. Artemis's legacy shows no signs of fading. Her timeless story continues to captivate us because it speaks to universal human experiences, our relationship with nature, the struggle for personal freedom, and the need for protection and justice. She is a goddess who transcends time, culture, and circumstance. As we face new challenges in the modern world, Artemis offers a reminder that true strength comes from balance, the harmony of wild instinct and thoughtful action. She calls on us to embrace our inner huntress, to be fierce in our convictions, and to protect the wild places, both outside and within ourselves. Artemis's story is as wild and timeless as the forests she protects. She reminds us that strength is not just physical power, but a fierce independence and deep connection to the natural world. In a world that often demands conformity, Artemis calls us to embrace our untamed spirit and defend what we hold sacred. What would Artemis look like today? Would she be a protector of our planet, a symbol of female empowerment, or a reminder that true power lies in balance and respect? Her legacy challenges us to find strength in both wildness and wisdom. Thank you for joining this journey into the life and myth of Artemis. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future explorations in mythology's greatest legends. Stay curious, stay fierce, and keep the hunt alive.